Hi friends, welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to be cooking up a small Valentine's Day feast for my family. Now, Valentine's Day has never been a big thing in our house, but in recent years I've enjoyed putting together a special meal on Valentine's Day that everybody can enjoy, and it's really just an excuse to celebrate and have some fun together. So today I'm going to be preparing some baked salmon served with a delicious colourful salad, some garlic bread focaccia, and a chocolate cake that is utterly luxurious with a Raspberry Coulis. Does your family have any Valentine's Day traditions? Let me know in the comments below. I would normally have made the focaccia the day before so that it could rest in the fridge overnight, but I'm going to be doing an accelerated process today and making it all on the same day. Now you'll be able to get all of my recipes over on the blog. I've got a special post up for this video with all of the recipes on there. So if you're interested in trying any of them out, you can hop over there to candleinthekitchen.com and find all of those recipes. I will also have the post linked below. This focaccia bread is one that I've been making recently and really enjoying. I love garlic bread. It is one of my favourite things to eat, and you just can't get it here in France, which is really surprising. And I've finally come up with this recipe that tastes so similar to the garlic bread I'm used to getting in England. It's really easy to make. You just mix up the focaccia with flour, water, starter, and salt, and let that rise over several hours. You can do some stretch and folds, but you don't even have to do that if you don't want to. Then the best thing to do is to leave it in the fridge overnight and then let it rise again in the morning before you bake it. Today I'm doing it all on the same day, so I'm mixing it up in the morning, doing a few stretch and folds over the course of a few hours. I'm going to put it somewhere kind of cold in my kitchen. There's a draft that comes in through the air vent, so I'm going to put it near that air vent and let it rest a while. It's not going to go in the fridge. And then I'm going to let it rise for its second rise in a really warm place until it's ready to bake. So I'm doing these first stretch and folds. As you can see, the dough is very wet, but that's what you want with focaccia. That's what's going to give it its texture with those huge bubbles in there. So I'm just going to leave this and maybe do a couple of coil and folds throughout the day, but I'm really not going to be doing very much with this dough. So that whole process was in the morning, and this is much later on in the day, and I'm going to be putting the focaccia into a baking tin now. So I've put some oil in there. In fact, I actually put far too much oil in, so make sure you don't put quite as much as I just did, otherwise it's going to be way too greasy. I use a pastry brush just to brush down the sides to make sure that the bread's not going to stick to the pan. And then I'm going to put the dough in there and spread it out as much as I can. I don't worry too much about it covering the whole of the pan because it will spread out as it does its second rise. When I first started making sourdough bread, I thought that it was really complicated, that you had to be super strict with timing and quantities and everything like that. But the more I do it, the more I realize it can be actually really forgiving. And if you know what you're looking for, you can usually get away with completely ignoring the normal schedules and you'll still get really good bread. It might not be Instagram worthy bread, but it will certainly be delicious. So I just would want to encourage you to give sourdough a go. It can really fit into your schedule. You sometimes don't even need to do stretch and folds, to be perfectly honest. It will still work. So give it a go. You'll see the more you do it, the easier it becomes, and it can be so flexible. Now I'm on to our family's favourite chocolate cake. Now this recipe is based on my allergy friendly chocolate cake, which you can find over on the blog. But today, because my two boys that have allergies are not eating sugar at the moment, they're not going to be having any of this chocolate cake. They'll enjoy the Raspberry Coulis with some little mini muffins that I made earlier in the week just for them. So this chocolate cake, I'm making it with normal flour, all-purpose flour, and real butter. While the chocolate and the butter are melting together, I'm going to start preparing the vegetables that are going to be the base of my salmon dish. So this is a recipe that my dad used to make. I've altered it slightly, but it's basically the same as he always used to make, and it was always one of our favorites growing up. It's so special to eat salmon. We very rarely eat any kind of fish just because it's so expensive here. So this is a celebratory dish for us. I like to use leeks and carrots. I think they have delicate flavors that go so well with the salmon. My dad always used to say not to put in courgettes because their flavor would be too strong. I have done it in the past, but I think I agree with him. I prefer leeks and carrots. So I've cut them into about 4 to 5 centimeter lengths, and I'm just going to fry them gently until they're soft. I'm going to do the same thing with the carrots, cut them into sticks and fry them in there with the leeks. Now, it depends. If you like your carrots al dente, you probably can fry them for about 10 minutes, maybe a bit less. If you prefer them nice and soft, I would suggest that you cooked them for longer in the frying pan because they won't soften up very well in the oven afterwards. The other thing you can do to make them softer is to cut them into much thinner slices than I am here. These are more like carrot sticks that we would be using in hummus, for example. They're that kind of shape, but I would have cut them a lot smaller and a lot thinner if I'd have wanted them to be softer. I actually quite like it when my carrots have a little bit of a crunch to them. Now you do need to be careful when you're frying these vegetables not to have the heat up too high because you don't want your leeks to brown. You want them to soften without browning because then they get a kind of a bitter taste to them, which is not going to be good with the salmon. So in go the carrots, and I'm going to carry on cooking that for at least 10 minutes longer if you prefer them softer. Now don't forget to salt the vegetables. You can also add black pepper too. I always like to make sure that I salt both the vegetables and the fish or the meat separately so that you really get a good flavour to the dish. Make sure you keep stirring regularly so that the leeks don't burn. Now this is another optional extra, a little bit of white wine. This makes this dish so special and I love the flavour it brings. You don't have to use wine. You can use chicken stock or fish stock if you have it. That would be good too. But you do need a little bit of liquid in there because that's going to help to steam the fish. I'm placing the salmon on top of the vegetables and then I'm going to salt and pepper those pieces of salmon, and then I'm going to top each one with a slice of lemon. Now that lemon will give flavour to the salmon while it's cooking, but also once it's served on the plate, people that like to have lemon flavour on their fish can squeeze the lemon onto their salmon. Now because I cooked the vegetables in a cast iron skillet, I'm just going to cook it in the oven in that same skillet. If you were using a frying pan that wasn't oven proof, then you'd need to transfer the vegetables and the fish to a baking pan. In any case, you need to cover whatever it is you're using with some aluminium foil before you put it in the oven. And this is going to bake at 180 degrees Celsius for 20 minutes. Now I'm back onto this chocolate cake. Such an easy recipe. Once the chocolate and the butter are melted together, you mix them up. I usually like to let it cool, but I was in a rush today, as often happens with me. So I'm adding the sugar first, just to help the mixture cool down. Then I'm going to add the flour. Now there's really not very much flour in this, which is what gives it its really gooey texture. There's only 110 grams of flour in there. Make sure when you add the flour, you mix it really, really well because we don't want any lumps in there. I'm going to add just maybe a half teaspoon of baking powder to help even out the texture of the cake. And once that's mixed up really well, I'm going to add the eggs. Before you add the eggs, you do need to make sure that your mixture has cooled down sufficiently, otherwise the eggs will cook in the mixture, which is not what we want. That's why I added first the sugar and then the flour, and now the mixture is cool enough for me to add the eggs. So make sure you mix it up really well. We don't want any lumps of egg yolk in there. That would be horrible. I also like to add a little bit of salt, and I feel like it gives it a kind of a salted caramel flavour. It just is such a good cake. It's our absolute favourite, and I really hope you'll try it. I'm sure you'll love it too. Into a cake tin it goes. I didn't even need to grease the cake tin because the mixture has got so much butter in there. Did you see how easy that was to make? It is really such a good cake and so simple. I really hope you'll give it a go. This bakes in the oven at 180 degrees Celsius for 18 minutes. Now I'm going to start making the Raspberry Coulis. So I've got 200 grams of defrosted raspberries in there. You can use fresh if you wish. And I'm going to add about 100 grams of honey. You could use sugar, that would be fine, that would work well. But because of the special diet that my children are on at the moment, I'm using honey. And this was the perfect sweetness. I wouldn't change a thing with this coulis. It is so delicious and it goes really well with that chocolate cake. I mix it up with a hand blender, and then I pass it through a fine sieve, and I'm using this rubber spatula just to make sure that all of the seeds are out of the coulis and we have a lovely smooth texture. The final thing I'm making today is a delicious colourful salad. And whenever you're having salad, you obviously need to have salad dressing. So I'm just making a really simple cider vinegar salad dressing that has got some herbs in it too. So I've got 1 tablespoon of mustard. I'm putting a 1/4 cup of, what would you call this in English? I think it's rapeseed oil. Maybe canola. I'm not entirely sure how you would say that in English. It's colza in French. Now, just a quick note, I do like to make sure I'm using good quality oils. So that's an extra virgin rapeseed oil. And 1/4 cup of rapeseed oil, 1/2 a cup of avocado oil or another more neutral flavored oil that you prefer. Then I'm going to add a teaspoon of herbs, about a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and a couple of tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. I'm going to whisk that up with a fork and then finish it off by shaking the jar. I love this method of making salad dressing in a jam jar because I can keep it in the fridge really easily and bring it out anytime we're having any kind of salad. salad I decided to make today is baby spinach with some clementines, some almonds, some dried cranberries, and then some seeds that I've got on there for their health benefits. So this is a really delicious salad and it looks amazing. That fruit just looks like jewels on top of that bright green spinach, and it was very tasty. And the apple cider vinegar salad dressing just went absolutely perfectly with this salad. Now it's time to finish off this garlic bread focaccia, so it's much later on in the day. I'm melting some butter and I'm going to crush some garlic in there, and that's going to be poured on top of the focaccia, and I'm going to be able to dimple it in with my fingertips, which is my favourite part of this whole process. It's so satisfying. Now I will say that making it all the same day doesn't give such a bubbly focaccia, so I would recommend, if you're making this, I would recommend that you follow the recipe that's on the blog, because that will explain how to get a really bubbly focaccia. However, having said that, this was still really good, very tasty, and we all thoroughly enjoyed it. It went really well with the salmon, and it was such a treat and a feast for us. And to finish it off, I like to sprinkle a little bit of sea salt over the top just to bring out all of those flavours. That will bake in the oven for 30 minutes at 220 degrees Celsius. Now it's time to set the table just to make this meal even more special. I've got some roses that I just bought from the supermarket, but they're pretty and they do the job. I'm going to light candles and wait for everybody to get home and enjoy this meal together. I hope you enjoyed watching the video today. If you did, don't forget to like and comment and subscribe. I make videos every week on homemade food from scratch, allergy-friendly meal ideas, and lots of sourdough. So I hope to see you next time. Bye!